Town Board meeting, please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Jeff Reinahan, First Ward.
Bill Carlos, Second Ward.
Ann Berger, Third Ward.
Michael Safone, Fourth Ward.
Wonder why.
Surreptitious editing.
Battery.
Stefan Krakauer, Fifth Ward.
Ann Churchian, Sixth Ward.
Jessica Moran, Deputy Clerk.
Jim Nelson, Attorney for the Town.
John Baisley, Town Supervisor. Welcome, everybody. Tonight's agenda, item 1 will be accept the resignation of Officer Patrick Garvey. 2, accept the retirement of Shannon Rodriguez. 3, authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with the county in reference to the police department's Tyler technology system. 4, authorize Eastdale Spring Hop and Shop. 5, authorize a maintenance agreement for Hudson Heritage Project. 6, set a date for a public hearing on zoning amendment 210 tattoo parlors. 7, resolution supporting the New Jersey Watershed Protection Act. 8, appoint Angela Fleshland to the Board of Ethics. 9, authorize a water agreement with Frito-Lay, I-Park Campus in East Fishkill. 10, retain Kennedy and Madonna LLP for PFAS water contamination suit. 11, notification of claim, Beck versus Romano, Romano versus Central Hudson / the town, Connie Wright versus the town, Richard Kowalski versus the town, Regina Frias, Amos, Kawami, Dunphy versus the town. We have 2 special consents. Authorize a zero emissions vehicle infrastructure grant award to accept that. And SC2, resignation of Caroline Fenner from the CAC. With that said, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for any item on the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody here to speak on any item on the agenda? Doreen, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Jay. I have a question about agenda item number 10, the hiring of the legal firm for the water contamination. So there's the possibility that this could be related to the investigation that the DEC is doing, where the Dutchess County Fire Training Center, the DEC is doing an investigation of them as a state Superfund site because of the potential contamination from PFAS contaminants and the potential that it was in the Fallkill. So this investigation is just starting with the DEC. So will the law firm be working like in conjunction, or do you have any information on this?
Well, the law firm is going to be working in conjunction with other municipalities. Jim can probably explain what the suit is called.
Yes, this lawsuit is brought initially by Kennedy and Madonna, but they work together with one of the older, what I'd call Wall Street firms, as well as a couple of other firms from across the country. Most of their clients happen to be from out of New York State, and what they're looking for is what I would refer to as to see if there's a basis for a product liability claim. That this product, which was manufactured apparently by DuPont, as well as 3M, was put on the market with knowledge that in fact it would have harmful side effects. So that's in a nutshell what it is. And the idea is to, if there is a claim, to be able to recover the cost to remediate. And the situation with these chemicals is that they are apparently very hard to eliminate from the system. You can screen and screen and screen and not get them. So frankly, I'm not sure what you do to get rid of them. But
they don't come, they don't go out of the wells, they have to be treated and taken out. It's not something that flushing the wells nonstop will take them out. That doesn't work. And these were found in 2 of the wells that we have not used in over 20 years. And when we did use the wells, it was something that was not tested for. So those wells are just, keep everybody in mind, these wells are not in use, and they haven't been in use for, I think it was 2004 or 2005 was the last time they were used, and this chemical was not tested for at that time either. And there are other towns in the county that have joined on either this law firm or other law firms to address this, and it's going in the same route as the opioids were, that the way the suit is going. We just wanted to get in early because we are a water supplier, as opposed to some of the other small entities that might be in there, so we want to get in early on in the claim. And at this point, it's not costing us anything either.
Okay, and I guess, part of my question there was, if it does turn out that the Dutchess County Fire Training Center was responsible for the contamination, would the town be, seeking recovery of any losses or any remediation if it was found that it was caused by the county?
We would have to, I think, decide that at that time. This now is more geared towards the product and the fact that the manufacturers of the product knew that this was a dangerous product. They should have never have sold it. So either whether they sold it to businesses or to the county is one side. That would have to be, I think, a whole different avenue when that came down the road during.
Okay, yeah, and it also depends on what the DEC finds. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm Corey Mullen, by the way.
Rachel Rizzucci. Nice to meet you all.
How
Nice
are
to
you?
meet you. We're bringing up the zoning for the tattoo parlor.
Yeah.
Copy as far as what it states, or does anybody have a copy as far as what it's stating? So
Yeah,
I can come prepared.
basically what it's stating is that tattoo parlors will be allowed in the Arlington Town Center and is it highway business?
Business high.
Business highway zones, but not be allowed as a home business. So,
That's perfect.
yeah, so
Yeah.
basically right now they're not allowed. And the tattoo parlors we have our grandfathered in.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be an option at the time also, when it gets to the board. There's 2 different scenarios here. One is Arlington Town Center allowed, business highway allowed by special use permit. The board will decide at that time
Okay.
which one we want to put forward. You understand what the special use permit is? If you're in business highway, you have to come in to go through the planning board process to get it approved for that. And the board will decide which route we want to go with or without a special use permit when we get to it.
Okay.
But that's not really that bad to do either.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're open to both, but
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you,
And you're
Can tell
currently
us-
open now, right?
correct.
Yeah.
so you can tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you're hoping to do.
Yeah, I mean, we're both tattoo artists currently at a, established shop.
What's the name of your shop? Where are you at?
It's not our shop.
No.
We work for someone else, but we're looking to branch away and, take it on ourselves and see what we can do, being our own bosses, We have the clientele. I know you in particular, you bring in some people from
Yeah, all different
states,
counties, different
counties,
states.
So it's going to be good money, good clientele. We do a lot of stuff for the public. We do fundraising.
Twist for Tots,
Yeah.
feed the homeless.
Yeah.
And I think we've all seen, from my opinion, that the thought of what a tattoo parlor was and what it is today are 2 different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the board understands that it wasn't in our code anywhere. It was taken out years ago. So it should be in there somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, I liked your hours because you're basically doing daytime hours.
Right.
Which
Yeah. We don't want to, be tattooing at 1 a.m. We have families. We have stuff going on. We both live relatively close, so it'll be nice to live in Poughkeepsie, work in Poughkeepsie,
Mhm.
for sure.
That works.
Tattooing is a little different these days. It's more of an art medium versus
Yeah.
back then, we're not gangbangers or drug
No.
dealers. So we do have art degrees, backgrounds,
Yeah.
mixed media, digital art, fine arts,
Yeah.
graphic art. So worked with doing a
Where's
lot
the
of different
space you want to go?
Right now, we're currently looking at Raymond Avenue, right at the corner there, next to the salon and next to the new, I think it's a cigar shop that they've
Yeah,
been
that
planning.
keeps saying coming soon.
Yeah.
Right, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's a good spot.
Good
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, that
I
whole
think it-
area is kind of,
Where the florist was in there?
Yes.
Yep.
correct, Yep.
Yep, and
they
most
moved?
of my clients in particular are from all the colleges, so that would be very nice to
Yeah.
be right down the street from them.
sure.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
nice to have good businesses, businesses come into that area and then
Right.
hopefully stay. And so, I mean, we're all pro-business, I think.
And the florist left for good reasons. They needed a bigger space. They didn't leave because they didn't make out well. They actually left for a bigger
that's good.
location.
Yeah, that's good.
Very good.
Yeah, nowadays too, going to a tattoo parlor is more of a salon experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
therapy for some
Yeah,
too.
a lot of people do use it as therapy. They have a bad day, they come in. I just tattooed, a woman, she said she was 68 and she just had a surgery a couple months ago and she's having, some issues and she's like, I just need this for me.
Oh,
And that's why I love my job, because I'm helping people emotionally.
Also, I just want to bring to your attention, we are, bloodborne pathogen certified, first base aid, CPR.
Yeah.
So it's not just we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Sounds good, thanks.
All
All
good
right,
things.
thanks a lot.
nice meeting you.
Likewise, thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to discuss any item on the agenda? If not, motion to resume the rules? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Ryan.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does accept with regret the resignation of Patrick Garvey, police officer with the town of Poughkeepsie Police Department, effective April 4, 2022. So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Best of luck to Officer Garvey.
Resolution number 2, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with regret the retirement of Shannon Rodriguez, police lieutenant with the town of Poughkeepsie Police Department, effective April 28, 2002. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry to see Lieutenant Rodriguez go. She was a great community officer. She was really good to work with, really helpful when we did the events in Arlington. Yes, she's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
She's been instrumental with Marist College and dealing with the off-campus issues that I've had down there. So, it's going to be a big hit for me. Who am I getting?
She will be sorely missed. I agree. She was a great asset, and once she stood up to lieutenant, took on this position, she definitely was a positive for the police department, and she was always there when you needed her and willing to take on just about any task I think any board member had asked her for.
I wish her the best in retirement.
Yeah, she will be missed, but I'm guessing she's looking forward to it.
Yes.
So, good luck and enjoy.
Thank you, Shannon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas by resolution 7.2-6 of the 2016, the town of Poughkeepsie authorized the execution of contracts with the county of Dutchess to provide public safety IT hosting services to the town, and with Tyler Technologies for software access and services which they provide to the town and the county. And whereas the county has proposed to amend those contracts and assume the town's licensing interest and obligations with Tyler, which assumption is estimated to save the town of Poughkeepsie $11,500 in 2022, because we have paid Tyler for maintenance through September of this year at $32.50 per month. But thereafter, the savings will be about $44,600 per year in total public safety IT hosting services expenses. Now therefore, be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to execute the attached agreement in substantially the form as presented with the County of Dutchess in order to effect those amendments and the extension through December 31st, 2026, all in form acceptable to the supervisor. And be it further resolved that the amendment and the extension of this agreement involve professional services which do not require the solicitation of alternative proposals, and which action is a type 2 action under SECRA, acquiring no environmental review because it involves the continuation of an existing contract, which is part of the ongoing administration of town affairs with no change in policy which might impair the environment. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? Just so everybody knows, this contract started back when we teamed up with the county on a municipal innovation grants were called shared services back then, and we worked with the county, and we saved hundreds of thousands of dollars by putting this in place and working with them. And it just goes to show you, as more towns have joined on, the savings is just growing. So as even the prices are going up, we're still saving money. So again, from being in early on and taking our computer system and changing it over, it was beneficial. And talking to some of the officers that were there in the beginning, they were hesitant because they were like, oh, it's a little harder. But some of the other officers that came and said, it may have been a little more difficult to use in the beginning, but once you learned it, there was so much more information that was coming out of this that they could share, as opposed to just the town having their own. So I think we've got a great asset out of this. And I want to thank the acting chief and the staff for working on keeping this contract in place, and it was not an easy start, but it's going in the right direction. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the town board, town of Poughkeepsie, has heretofore received an application submitted by Shelby Adrian to hold an event called the Spring Hop and Shop located at Cottage Square, 48 Eastdale Avenue North, Poughkeepsie, New York, on Saturday, April 9th, 2022, from 11 to 3 p.m. And whereas the presence of food vendors is a vital part of a successful event, now therefore be it resolved, the town board, town of Poughkeepsie, does not include the vendors of food participating in this Spring Hop and Shop as peddlers and hawkers. And these vendors are thereby exempt from provisions of Chapter 151 of the Town Code. To be it further resolved, the town board, town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby approve the application as submitted for said event to be held on Saturday, April 9th, 2022. So moved.
Second.
And a motion second. Any question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to sign a maintenance agreement and any supporting recording documents in regard to Hudson Heritage Project in substantially the form attached. And be it further resolved that such acceptance and authorization by the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie is subject to the approval of all final documents by the town attorney, planning board attorney, town engineer, and the director of municipal development for the town of Poughkeepsie. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any questions on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the town board has received a recommendation from the zoning and development that a local law amendment to be made in chapter 210 entitled zoning, specifically 210-22 entitled Arlington Town Center District, 210-35 entitled Highway Business District, and 210-74 entitled Home Occupation. And whereas the proposed amendments are annexed hereto as Exhibit A and incorporated herein as recited verbatim, with words underlined to be added and those words stricken to be deleted. And the town board does direct said amendments to be spread across the record as if they in fact have been read verbatim. And whereas this action to amend the zoning law is a type A action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and an environmental assessment form is annexed hereto. And whereas the town board has determined that the proposed amendment must be referred to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development and to the town planning board for review and recommendations. And whereas the amendment requires a public hearing, now therefore be resolved that the town board hereby states that because only the town board can consider and adopt changes to the town code, that it is the only involved agency, and the board hereby declares that it is the lead agency for purposes of coordinating the environmental review of this matter pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law. And the town board hereby sets the public hearing of the proposed amendments for May 4th, 2022 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may become to be heard, and the Town Hall, 1 over Rucker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. And the town board refers this matter to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development for recommendations pursuant to GML 239-M, and the town board refers the matter to the planning board for an advisory report pursuant to the town board section 210-154, and the town board directs the town clerk to notify the town clerks of each of the surrounding municipalities of the public hearing pursuant to GML 239-NN. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have two exhibits here. We have, the first one is Arlington Town Center and Highway Business allowing tattoos. And the second one is Arlington Town Center and Highway Business allowing tattoos. But in the Highway Business, they'd have to come in for special use permit because it covers a larger area of the town than the Arlington Town Center?
I would make the suggestion, the Arlington Town Center, I think that's where the people who just spoke are looking to be, so that would make it as of right. For the business highway, because it's such an expansive district and it's all over the town, and we really aren't looking specifically at any properties, I'd be more comfortable doing the special use permit for that, and this way it would just give one more layer of review from the planning board in the process.
And just so people know, the business highway, one of the reasons it's in there is we do have one up by Marist College that's in there now, and that would make that one legal. They would not have to come in for a special use permit. That would make that one legal.
Yeah, and I'm fine with doing it that way because Arlington currently has a tattoo parlor and it hasn't been a problem. I don't think there's been any complaints about it. And also, he's looking to move to a new location too, which he would not be able to do unless we do this, so.
Well, my take is, that I don't see why they should be restricted in the first place. A tattoo parlor, that's just, again, my opinion. People still look at it for whatever reason as a taboo. It's a business in my mind, so I'm not sure why I'm not saying singling them out, but why they would have to get a special use. That's just my take on it.
Okay. Well, I'll take a vote on which one we want.
If you want to do it, that's okay with me.
Who wants straight, no restrictions at all?
Me?
Two? Who wants the restrictions?
Special use.
Okay, special use, okay. So I'm gonna make a motion,
It's fine.
for resolution number 6, to put on the one with the restrictions for the
Right.
business highway for a special use permit. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Number 7? 7 here, you in? It's me. Resolution regarding the New York, New Jersey Watershed Protection Act, H.R. 4677, whereas New York Congressman Tonko has proposed the New York, New Jersey Watershed Protection Act, a unique federal investment program to authorize $50 million of federal funds to protect and restore all watersheds, including the Hudson River watershed that flow in the New York, New Jersey harbor, and whereas the act is unanimously support among the Hudson Valley's congressional delegation, and whereas the act will provide benefits to diverse stakeholders such as the protection of fisheries and wildlife, conservation of natural resources and public and private lands, critical urban green spaces, ocean and coastal resources, and various opportunities to improve the quality of life for community members throughout the region. Whereas the town of Poughkeepsie is part of one of the most densely populated and economically important regions in the country, the proposed New York, New Jersey Watershed Act will provide enormous economic and environmental benefits locally, regionally, nationally, and whereas the watershed provide drinking water, tourism, and outdoor recreation, economic opportunities, as well as sustain fisheries, critical wildlife, and provide vital infrastructure from flooding and rising sea levels. And whereas the act will provide matching funds to achieve the goals of New York State Department of Environmental Conservation's Hudson River Estuary Program, a state program that has greatly benefited Hudson Valley communities. And whereas the act would fund shoreline management and restoration within the watersheds. Whereas an elected body tasked with protection and safeguard irreplaceable water-connected resources and natural-based flood hazard mitigation measures that are essential to protect human life and infrastructure. Whereas this act would direct the Secretary of the Interior to enhance collaboration and coordinate restoration activities at all levels of government to protect fish and wildlife habitats, endangered species, improve water quality, increase public access to the estuary, mitigate flood risk, and develop public outreach as educational activities. Whereas many residents of the region of New York, New Jersey watershed live in communities lacking environmental justice, where access to and enjoyment of fish, wildlife, clean water, and other natural resources have been impaired and compromised, federal funding is necessary to mitigate these long overdue environmental and social issues, and where the town of Poughkeepsie would benefit from the act, as it would establish beneficial programs and award grants to help fund valuable restoration projects in our local community. And whereas the town of Poughkeepsie is a cornerstone which its residents depend on, and the region relies on for its resources to provide prosperity throughout the state, therefore the town of Poughkeepsie must hold its duty to protect the community's access to drinking water and natural resources. Whereas the town of Poughkeepsie has had an opportunity to be a social and economical leader of the state by supporting the New York, New Jersey Watershed Protection Act, we may lead by example and facilitate a much-needed change. Now therefore be resolved, the town of Poughkeepsie, Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie supports the passing of the New York, New Jersey Watershed Protection Act. So moved.
Second.
Does anybody have any questions on that?
Mr. Supervisor, if I might, remember last year when we had the significant release of
The turbulent water?
water out of the Ashokan Reservoir that came down the Esopus into the Hudson River, and our water plant ended up taking a significant amount of mud out of the river. Will this address that?
This will help with that. It will help with funding, it helps with the guidance of it, and Bill, along the line of what you were saying, as people know or don't know, there's a lot that goes on in the Hudson River, as Bill has addressed on the water board, all the oil trains that are coming down the other side, they've addressed the issue over there, the fact they want to run an electrical line down the center of the river, right between our two intakes. This is something that will make their eyes open to us. This will give us more pull, this will give us more chance to get some money, and as you just brought up as early as yesterday, the possibility of the salt line coming up, this kind of funding should help with that. We already have this in some other states, and this should be a benefit to us.
When that release happened, it had a negative impact on our water plant. That's the city and town of Poughkeepsie. It's 90,000 people. And when we called New York City Water Department to have a conversation with them about the negative impact of their release, they refused to let anybody talk to us. So I'm hoping that maybe this new act will put them in line. Somehow I doubt that.
But we will, the DEC on the release of the turbulent water, the head of DEC did actually put a stop to that. You know, and they have to re-review it and go through the process again because of the way they were doing it. Everybody worries about sea level rise when you're sending all that turbulent, mucky water down. They had a way to send down clear water, but they're opted to use the turbulent water, which is just sending another silt base, which just forces the river to raise even higher. So Hudson 7 and
the Hudson
10.
River, especially the mid-Hudson River, we're beyond the point where this is everybody's sewer and everybody's chemical dumping place and ignored by communities and something as powerful as the New York City water people. It's different now. It's drinking water. If you go out to the water fountain and have a drink, that came from the Hudson River. We can't allow things to happen to that river anymore. When we had this problem, and I spoke with the people from the city, explained to them our sincere dissatisfaction, they were, let's say, not pleased. And they weren't going to do anything. So I said, well then, what we're going to do is we're going to capture all the mud from our water plant, we're going to put it in a truck, and I'm going to drive it up to one of your feeder streams and dump it back into the Ashokan. That got their attention. Unfortunately, wasn't good for me.
I thought you were going to drive it to their house.
He tried. And Bill,
They got the point.
and we have gained a huge voice along the Hudson River with the Hudson 7 and the 7 municipalities that pull drinking water from the Hudson River. And when we do speak now, the DEC, when they listen to Ashokan Reservoir, they made New York City, whatever their initials are, DEP, go back and actually review what they were doing. So we do have a voice. We're getting there. And this, I think, will just help, and this will help get us funding. As Bill said, we pull close to 14 million gallons of water a day out of the Hudson River, which not only feeds the town and the city of Poughkeepsie, it does feed other municipalities and other businesses throughout Dutchess County also. So it's something that we take seriously, and I think that this will help us get us some funding and help clean the river up even more. I think it's something we should definitely be in favor of. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Is that my 3 minute?
What?
My 3 minute speech.
No.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Angela Westland to a current vacant position on the Town of Poughkeepsie Board of Ethics, which term expires on February 28, 2025. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any questions?
I think
Good.
Angela is an excellent person to be on the Board of Ethics. I think she's a very bright, intelligent person, very ethical and level-headed, and I'm just happy that she's able to volunteer for one of our boards. So thank you, Angela.
And she currently sits on the Board of Ethics in the hospital she works in also. So she has that background behind her.
With her schedule, I'm glad to have her.
Yes, and she lives close by.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Welcome aboard, Angela.
Resolution number 9. Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to negotiate and execute on behalf of the town of Poughkeepsie an agreement for water storage capacity, 120,000 gallons, for rolling Frito-Lay LP's fire flow use at its iPark EFG/GFUS campus in East Fishkill for a term not to continue beyond the expiration date of November 19th, 2004. Water sales agreement between IBM, now Global Foundries, US 2 LLC, and the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority. And whereas the agreement shall be on such terms as are acceptable to the supervisor after consultation with the town engineer, water department, and attorney to the town, and shall provide for a payment of $2 per gallon for up to 30 years, with the charge for extensions payable as on excise to be a $2 per gallon COLA, cost of living adjustment, and prorated to a 30-year term as may be required. Be it further resolved that entering into this agreement represents part of the ongoing administration of the town of Poughkeepsie affairs, involves no change which would create a substantial adverse impact, and it is type 2 action requiring no seeker review. So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the town of Poughkeepsie has inactive water wells where PFAS compounds have been detected during testing, and whereas the town wishes to further investigate their presence, determine whether potential sources can be determined, and evaluate the potential to recover the cost and losses associated with their presence and remediation. And whereas the town board has considered the credentials and experience of Kennedy and Madonna LLP and its affiliated firms, in litigated matters relating to the presence of and recovery for PFAS contamination. Now therefore, be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to execute a legal services agreement in substantially the form annexed with the firms for the above purposes, and to represent the town in a civil action to recover damages in the appropriate court for any cost and losses resulting from the presence of PFAS and other contaminants identified during the investigation which will follow. So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any questions?
So we're not required to do any further testing or investigation other than what we've already done to date.
Right.
That would be on them if they want to do it.
Yep.
And one of the remedies could be that it's got to be cleaned up, right?
Not cleaned up, they would.
Remediated.
Yeah, it's hard to clean up, so what they would have to do is find a way to have it taken out. There is a process, and it's in the millions of dollars. Other towns.
So if remediation ends up being the recovery, how do they get paid? Not that I'm too worried about them, but we don't end up having to pay, like, there's no part where we're gonna have to say, we got $1 million worth of remediation, so we're gonna give them 20% cash.
No, the agreement provides for payment based on the cash recovery and what I'd characterize as a present value calculation of future work and future payments. But I did call up Kevin Madonna, who's the attorney that was at the interview, and did ask him, as I read this, am I correct, that we are not going to have to end up writing a check at the end of the day? And he confirmed that. And I can go back to him again and reconfirm that.
Okay, yeah, that would be my only concern, is that if the major part of the recovery is remediation and it's a contingency fee, I'm not sure how that works. Because normally a contingency fee, you're getting 20% of something. So if the remediation costs $10 million.
Right, as I said, it gets valued and then reduced to present value, and when you're going through this, you're right, you say to yourself, could we end up currently having to pay? And he walked me through it, and the answer was no, but I will call him again tomorrow before Jay signs this and confirm that again.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Closing that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Number 11 is legal, refer that to the legal department. And 12, be it resolved, the town board, town of Poughkeepsie does hereby grant special consent to the following items to wit. One is authorize the supervisor zero emission vehicle infrastructure grant award. And 2, to accept the resignation of Caroline Fenner from the CAC. And be it further resolved that upon the objection of any member of the town board, an item may be removed from the list and voted on separately. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the town of Poughkeepsie has qualified to receive a New York State Department of Environmental Conservation ZEV Infrastructure Grant Award of $46,388, now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor and his designees are hereby authorized to execute a grant receipt contract and such other documents as may be required to be executed. So moved.
Second. Motion second. Any questions?
Is this
What-
for
What are we gonna do with this?
charging station?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
What are we gonna do with this money?
Charging station
Stations.
A car, an electric
Charging
vehicle.
station.
here
For an electric vehicle.
At Town Hall?
at Town Hall.
Yep.
Stations, plural, or
Plural.
charging?
Plural.
Plural, okay.
Wonder how many we can get with that.
Half.
Each
Half.
6.
I just got a fully electric vehicle on Friday, so I'm
See,
excited about
this
this.
is for you, Ann.
Because I'm looking around all the
This is for
time
you,
for
Ann.
chargers.
We'll get you one.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with regret the resignation of Caroline Fender from the Town of Poughkeepsie Conservation Advisory Commission, effective immediately. So moved.
Second.
Get a motion second. Any questions?
Thank Carolyn for volunteering.
I
Yeah.
agree. Thank her for her time and good luck in her career that's stressing her out. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to the end of the agenda. I'd like to suspend the rules for any item in general. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Doreen?
Yes, Jace, I have a question about the electric charging station. So this will be at current town hall. Is this something that can be moved to the new town hall if you decide to move in a couple of years?
Yeah, it may cost us a lot to move it. It's something that could possibly definitely be moved, even though the other location, Doreen, currently has 8 or 10 charging stations at it.
Oh, they do have that many?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The whole,
Right,
one,
and
the
then-
whole one side of the building has charging stations.
You can plug right into the sun over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I do know they have the solar panels out there. My other question, well, actually, it's a statement regarding the watershed agreement for, protection of natural resources. And again, you're updating zoning code in conformance with the master plan. And I would like to see more protection for wetlands and tree protection, because, this talks about protecting natural resources, controlling flooding, water quality, and wetlands and tree protection contribute to what you're trying to do. So going forward, I hope that the town code is updated and you can include stricter procedures so that those natural resources can be protected.
I think you raise a really good point, Doreen, though, because what you see things happen today that never used to happen, and a big part of it is because what's around us has changed. So as things get developed, water flows in different directions, animals are living in different locations, and so yeah, everything we do has an impact on the world around us, and our water source is extremely important. So when New York City does it, it's bad. We also don't want to have it happening in our own town where anything from the town of Poughkeepsie is impacting our water source or anybody else's. So yeah, I think it's something that we should all always be aware of, but sometimes you forget in the day-to-day. So.
We have to be aware more and more, Doreen. As you look at, PFASs today alone, it's something we wouldn't have expected years ago, ever getting into our well system. Years ago, it was MTBs from the gas station, so they changed that system. So something to constantly be aware of and realize Hudson River is our main source, so we have to do our best to protect what is our main source at this time. So you're absolutely correct, Doreen.
I've been talking about this probably for 22 years. There are some things that have gotten a little bit better, but there are some things that as far as wetland and tree destruction, which really unfortunately has not improved. So yeah, when you're going forward with the zoning, and look forward to having some presentations to the town board as to what the zoning committee is working on.
Yes, Councilman Renahan will be bringing that to the town board regularly.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Chally?
Hello, Jim Chally, 35 Park Avenue. Two quick things. The first, wearing my Peach Hill hat on behalf of the board of the Friends of Peach Hill. We want to publicly thank Mark Pfeiffer for his help about a week ago. Right near the entrance, there were several very large and very dead trees. Most of the time, the volunteers and the Friends can do all of the maintenance on Peach Hill. But these were just too big. We didn't have the equipment, we didn't have the expertise, the big-time chainsaw workers. And so we called Mark and asked if there was any chance that he and his highway department crew could help us out. Within a week, he was there. They removed the trees, which were becoming a really safety hazard. Big limbs were falling off. Disposed of them and cleaned up the site. And I just can't thank him enough. This was a huge help to us. And when the town and the Friends can really work together as partners, good things can happen, and we appreciate it.
Jim, we agree, and just so people know, that is a town park, and the Friends of Peach Hill manage the park for us. They do a phenomenal job. I think they're currently working with the water department to get some water up.
Yep, that's
to
the
Peach
next.
Hill also.
That's the next project, and that will be a huge help as well. So I just want everybody to know how much we appreciate working together with you and the highway department. So taking off the Peach Hill hat, the second thing, I just make a brief comment concerning the discussion that you had at the last meeting about the redesign of the east-west arterial highways. And there was a good deal of discussion, and I think rightly so, about what would happen if those two arterials were each reduced from 3 lanes to 2 lanes, about what this would do to the capacity of the highway. And what I'd like to do tonight is just suggest that thinking back on the history of Raymond Avenue might be helpful. When the redesign of Raymond Avenue was proposed, there were two things that really got people's attention. One was the roundabouts. Oh my God, what are these? And the second was reducing Raymond Avenue, which you will remember at that time was 4 lanes, two in each direction, to just 2 lanes. And again, given the amount of traffic on that road, how could you possibly do this? And there was a lot of concern about whether Raymond Avenue would become kind of perpetually jammed, traffic would spill into residential areas and so on. I just want to point out that after the change today, Raymond Avenue carries more cars per day than it ever has. And the reason for this, it's counterintuitive, no question, that is that the old Raymond Avenue and the current arterials are very inefficient as highways. If you think of the arterials right now, especially during rush hours, they fall into a traffic regime that's known as platooning, which means that you have a big slug of traffic, 3 lanes wide, 10, 15 cars deep, that's all moving at once. And in the first place, it's a safety issue because drivers are trying to switch lanes so that they can turn where they need to turn and so on. But more than that, after that slug has gone by, there will be sometimes 2 or 3 minutes in which the highway is empty. So what you've got is a huge slab of concrete that's doing nothing for much of the time. And that was what had happened at Raymond Avenue as well. By, in effect, narrowing the road, slowing things down, Raymond Avenue used to have a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, believe it or not. Slowing things down, but what happens is that the traffic smooths out, and so the existing lanes work much more efficiently. And what I would just like to suggest is that we keep that in mind. This might be helpful in thinking about what we would like the arterials to look like in some kind of new design.
The
Yeah.
the way I see, and I liked the change in Raymond Avenue even before it happened. And I see Raymond Avenue more of a street where it was an arterial, a highway,
No
on
doubt.
an area where it should have been a local road, because maybe not the majority, but a lot of people going through Raymond Avenue are stopping along the way. The arterial is more of a thoroughfare than a local road, whereas Route 9, in most cases, is a thoroughfare. It's a highway. So I think each type of road has a different purpose. I think Raymond Avenue did work in the redesign. I think it also worked in Vassar College becoming a partner with the community and investing in the community and the properties there, and then private businesses coming in and deciding that they wanted to locate there, and you had a synergy of things that made Raymond Avenue way more successful. The changeover in the road was part of it. I do, though, look at that arterial as a different type of road. Just that's my honest opinion. And I think when they came in, I had questions and concerned, but I'm completely open to seeing a design come to fruition. But I just don't. I was concerned if they lock into one thing and the arterial part becomes unsuccessful, that other part is clearly a mess. The Cloverleaf on Route 9, it's a disaster. And so my biggest concern when they were here was, please fix that and don't tie them ultimately together.
No, I heard that loud and clear, and I also thank you 20 years after the fact for your early open-mindedness and thoughtfulness about the redesign of Raymond Avenue. Whether or not there are two different kinds of roads, I don't know. I haven't seen any statistics on travel destinations and that sort of thing. I can tell you, however, that the reason Raymond Avenue turned out to be 4 lanes was the thought was to make it easier for IBM workforce to do the commutes. That was put in at a time when it was thought that IBM would expand not just on South Road and in Fishkill, but also in the Boardman Road area. And as you know, they developed a number of laboratories, although they never expanded the manufacturing facilities. But that was part of a state deal, a kind of an enticement for IBM to continue their investment in the idea. And I can tell you, though, as you know, I first started walking along Raymond Avenue in the early 1970s. I can tell you at the rush hours, it was a commuter rush hour. There was no question about that. Again, we don't have a long debate on this.
I think with the arterial, the solution lies somewhere in between, because it's a long stretch of road and there's different parts of it that have different purposes. The arterial Main Street portion and the City of Poughkeepsie portion might be better suited with traffic calming. The middle portion may be better suited being kind of what it is. So that's what I say. There might be a solution somewhere in between, but
No,
I'm not a traffic engineer, so I leave it up to them to come up with a better solution.
And I'm not going to pretend that I'm either. All I want to do is to suggest that that reducing the number of lanes in a highway doesn't necessarily reduce capacity. In fact, in traffic modeling, this is something called Bray's paradox, where paradoxically, seeming to make the road smaller, in fact, increases its capacity. And I just wanted to suggest that easy equation fewer lanes means less capacity isn't necessarily the case.
Yeah.
That's all.
And in Arlington, we would like to see it slow down and get narrower, because right now it's like a knife running through Arlington. People don't want to walk in Arlington because they're concerned about crossing there. The cars go very fast and it seems to be very wide, and it's a deterrent. It's a deterrent to make Arlington a truly walkable community. So we would like to see it slow down and see if we can't get a bicycle lane in there that work, or a delivery lane too, because I can't tell you how many times a car has pulled over in front of me to stop at one of those houses, and I'm stuck trying to change lanes, and everybody's zipping by me very quickly. So
Yeah.
it could be done better.
Jim, all those comments were taken back to the committee last week from the city and the town. They were all addressed during the committee. Mark addressed them all.
Okay, good.
So they're working on it.
Okay.
And no
Good to see
decision
you,
has
Jim.
been made.
Okay,
Jay,
thanks.
the
And,
men
you know,
that
I'm
were
always-
here, that was a private company?
No.
They're part of DOT?
One's a consultant. Mark to the left was a consultant.
The
Mark
other
to the
one's
right was
Dutchess
for the
County.
county.
For the county?
DCTC.
So nobody from DOT?
No.
No, DOT
No.
was in all the meetings during the whole process from day one. DOT was part of the committee. There was two or
Yeah,
three
it-
people in the meeting the other day, actually. DOT rep from over across the street was forefront there with a couple other people. So it's been a pull from, the bridge authority's been involved, the city, the town, Dutchess County planning. There was a team of about 20 people. So it was a
Yeah.
wide variety. As you said, the difference whether we turn it into a highway, whether we make it small, everybody has their opinions, and they're trying to bring it down into one piece. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the
it's-
two individuals that presented to us were not DOT, they're part of this consortium or
Well,
whatever.
one's a
it is.
One's a consultant,
consultant, the other one works for Dutchess County Planning.
Yeah, Mark
Dutchess County
DeBold
Transportation
is
Council.
the head of what's called the Dutchess County Transportation Council.
DCTC, I
Yeah, and that's a
understand that.
unit within the planning department.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, I mean, really in response to many people complaining about the Route 9 interchange and about the effect that the arterials have had on Poughkeepsie neighborhoods, they decided that they would sponsor a study to really look into this and see what alternatives are. They got, I think, both state and federal funding, yeah. So Mark has been pretty much heading that up, and then the other gentleman that was here,
Mark.
is a consulting engineer, traffic engineer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody else? Come on up.
Hi, my name's Shane Johnson. I'm a resident at 45 Cedar Valley Road. I've been following the board meetings on the municipal channel. I think it's wonderful. I love that, how it's, so you don't, the people don't have to come. I have one question. The presentation that the comptroller did last week was excellent about the status of the town. But I've been following this for a while, and maybe you can enlighten me. I haven't heard anything at all about what the town's doing with the money from the American Rescue Plan.
Yeah, the money, Shane, will be all used for infrastructure. That's what it's geared for.
Okay.
Infrastructure, currently, we're looking to work on our phone systems. Part of it was used to repave, I'm not gonna mention the road, Cherry Lane, I think it was. Last year, some of that money was used for that, where we reevaluate our sewers. We're doing an acoustical study on the sewer systems to see if we have any blockages. It'll let us know if there's blockages, so we can go after those. So we're looking for wholehearted infrastructure. Other towns have gone outside and used it for different things. We are gearing it towards our infrastructure system, is what it was basically based for. And the infrastructure in the mind of the ARP is not roads. Infrastructure is water and sewer is basically what they want us to use most of it for. And unlike other municipalities, we did not get a lot of money. We got $2 million last year, and we'll get another $2 million this year, which, being in your position, you know, the money doesn't go far. No. So we've been looking at different infrastructure. We have one pipe in the sewer department that's got an issue now. We're looking to address that one. So the money will go, and it won't take long, but we're really trying to base it on solid infrastructure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Things that people don't see, Shane, it's underground, and it's not what they see, but we're trying to do our best to get into those spots. We met with water and sewer to see what are their main issues, and we're trying to address those up front.
Okay, I just didn't hear
Yeah.
it mentioned
No.
in the report, or
Yeah.
I haven't heard it, so I,
Yeah.
I
No,
was
that's what it
wondering
is, yeah.
what was, I knew there was 2 installments,
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
and I was wondering what it was doing. I'm sure other people were wondering too.
Yeah, no, we,
you know.
we mentioned it slowly, over different little pieces, but the main one that's done now is Cherry has been done. The phone system, they've been meeting,
Okay.
regularly on redoing our phone system, which is almost 30 years old, which is part of the infrastructure and some other items, but majority will be used on water and sewer infrastructure.
Infrastructure is a good thing. Okay.
Yeah, and it's a shame, because it's things people don't see. They'd rather see it in something above ground, but below ground, when it goes, and
Well,
that's the vitality to the town, when you lose sewer and water.
No sense fixing a house if the foundation's no good.
No, agreed,
So,
yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So, for years, the Greenville soccer fields have had a parking issue where the limitation on ability to play games on weekends was parking. The club, the recreation department, and the highway department got together, went down there, and added parking, which honestly, like I was looking by the concession stand, they added parking over towards the road that goes towards the creek. It made so much sense. It was such a nice, straightforward fix. The highway department went down there. I kept being told it was going to happen. I'm like, there's no way. They're playing soccer in a week. And the highway department went down there, cleared the area, put the item 4 down. It looks beautiful. There's so much more parking. It makes it less stressful, because you used to kind of have to, you try to get to the fields early to try to get to your game, to be able to get a parking spot, to be able to not have to sprint to the field, but then you'd have overlapping games. But I think it added 20 or 30 spots?
Almost 30 spots.
30 spots, which is phenomenal, because it used to be that when people couldn't find a spot, they'd park along the road going up, which would effectively squeeze the road almost completely shut and made it extremely dangerous. So I want to thank Mark and the highway department, because without them, that doesn't happen, because the cost, it would be cost prohibitive to try to go out and get a contractor, especially as we're starting to go into paving season, to try to get that done. And it was done quick, timely, and it looks fantastic. So thank you.
Anybody got anything else? Mr. Rennie. Wait, make a motion to resume the rules? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Rennie.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby adjourn to executive session to consider the following: to discuss matters which are exempt under the open meeting law, including matters subject to the attorney-client privilege. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Town board goes in executive session at 7:58 PM.